What are the decisive steps that the DA is calling for at the moment?
It's quite simple, actually. We are calling for a mass deployment of the SANDF to assist police forces in KwaZulu-Natal and in Gauteng areas where the violence has flared out of control. We are asking for police services that are available, extra police services, to be sent into those areas. In other words, everyone that's on leave, everyone that's scattered around the country must please come and back up these forces. We're also asking, we have 8,000 VIP security forces across our country. We're asking for ministers and premiers and the likes to relinquish their security services.
8,000.
8,000. And bring in those VIP securities into the areas that we require them. We're asking for Parliament to immediately reconvene. There are portfolio committees such as health, such as minerals, such as safety and security, such as national intelligence that have to reconvene. But on top of that, Parliament itself has to reconvene because the people of the country are in a dire state. We don't want them done behind closed doors. We want these debates to be out in the open, and South Africans must hear what MPs are saying. So in other words, South Africans must hear the DA saying deploy the SANDF and make sure that they are there to back up the police force. South Africans must hear the EFF saying we will go to war if the SANDF take to the streets to back up the police force. We must hear the silent members of the ANC who are keeping silent. I think we must remember that, it's very easy for someone to be a keyboard warrior, who sits behind a computer on a Saturday evening meeting a deadline and thinking, well, this bunch of palookas in Parliament, what are they doing? What they don't know is that someone like John Steenhuisen, myself, you, Solly, we haven't slept for the last 48 hours because we are trying to get help into these areas. We're trying to maintain calm. We're getting our public reps to assist. We're stopping vigilantism. We're trying to get neighborhood watches up and going, but without creating a situation where it becomes just out of control shooting. We're trying to get oxygen to hospitals because, as we know, Afrox had to shut down operations and then had a massive fire there. We're looking at a fuel shortage problem, so we're trying to get public reps to calm people down at petrol stations so that we don't have panic buying. I mean, I saw on TV yesterday a spa in KZN where people were being threatened to be arrested because they were not adhering to a 1.5 meter distance between each other. But right next door at a macro, a gentleman, well, I say gentleman very loosely, carried a double-door Samsung fridge freezer out of the macro on his head in front of a policeman watching him. But they were going to arrest the people standing outside Spa trying to buy milk and bread for their children.
Yeah, really interesting video. Now, just listen to what she has to say about Bheki Cele and how the police has actually been compromised by most of the ministers in the ANC.
It's got to the point now where ANC ministers need to come clear. I mean, we need to know where they stand. Bheki Cele makes this statement which said absolutely nothing on TV the other day. Let's get him into Parliament. Let's get him standing in front of Parliament and let's ask him, why are police using water cannons on restaurateurs who are peacefully protesting outside Parliament, but I have yet to see a water cannon being used in KZN. I saw them being used in Gauteng. Why aren't they being used in KZN?
And folks queuing for social grants with the minister sitting inside.
The minister sitting inside Nyala directing where the water cannon must be. So let's get Minister Zulu to come and explain what was her line of thinking, because I want to know what these ministers' line of thinking are. We have ministers whose children are tweeting the most outlandish things on Twitter and on social media, instigating violence to the point that Glynis Breitenbach utilized an existing piece of law that we just managed to pass, the cybersecurity law. She has gone to lay charges against the Zuma twins and against EFF members who are instigating violence. So what the public need to know is, yes, there are a couple of clowns, about 36 of them to be exact, 36, 37 clowns in Parliament. But there are also 89 incredibly dedicated MPs who are there to look after their best interests, to make sure that the law is upheld, and to make sure that when we design law, because our job is legislatures, we don't design law for just now. We've just heard from Helen. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. We design law for governments that will come, for situations that will come. This Disaster Management Act is a disaster in and of itself, because I've said it over and over again. It's created a prime minister versus a president scenario. So in this situation, who holds the real power? The new Cybercrimes Act is very, very harsh on social media, misinformation, fake news, and certainly the incitement to violence, bullying. It's in reaction to what's happened across the world. We've seen uprisings happening across the world, and it's all done through social media. Now, the thing is, we know data might cost a fortune in South Africa, but you can buy data packages for Twitter and for Insta and things like that. And what we have seen, this violence, a lot of it has been coordinated on Twitter. It's been encouraged on Twitter and Insta. And Cilliers has gone this morning to lay these charges according to sections of the Cybersecurity Act, which prohibit you from instigating violence through the use of social media. And in fact, yesterday we saw Twitter suspend Julius Malema, which is a good thing to do, because we don't need people inciting violence at a time where we should be calling for calm. And I mean, this kind of vigilantism, it's not... Isn't it interesting that those that call for the violence are hiding? And I saw a tweet from someone saying, Julius, this time we're not coming onto the road with you. Why don't you go onto the road with you and your family? Because they incite the violence, but they themselves will not go onto the streets and be part of that violence. So Cilliers this morning laid these charges, and I have full trust that the MPA is going to use this as the test case for the new laws, to make sure that they work and to make sure that people understand that you cannot use social media to instigate violence.
If you enjoyed this video, please share and like and subscribe, because that's the way you support Kwazemi as a channel, an Afrocentric channel, where we try to understand deeper issues in African history and hopefully develop a collective intelligence on how we wish to build the Africa we want to see as people of Africa. See you in the next one.